was 1979 when a thunderous roar of engines announced a new kind of television magic filled with high-octane chases. We were introduced to the legendary Duke boys, Bo and Luke, alongside the captivating Daisy, sparking a legacy of rural adventure. The show quickly became a heartfelt anthem for freedom, capturing the very essence of what it meant to be wild in the 80s. While some of our favorite stars chose to remain in the warm glow of the spotlight, others found peace far away from the cameras. Sadly, a few icons have journeyed on, leaving us to look at the cast in 2026 with both joy and a touch of sorrow. You might find that the passing decades have transformed these familiar faces in ways that will truly catch you by surprise. Picture John Schneider once more, leaping gracefully over the hood of that iconic orange Charger known as the General Lee. The Georgia sun reflects off the glass as thick clouds of red clay dust swirl behind him on a lonely country road. In that fleeting second, the entire world seems to stop and hold its breath, while the car defies the laws of gravity. He famously charmed the casting directors by pretending he was far more seasoned and much older than his actual years. The series didn't just air, it exploded into a massive cultural landmark, turning the young actor into a household name overnight. He later proved his versatility by conquering the country music charts and playing the steadfast Jonathan Kent on the hit show Smallville. Underneath the persona of the daring stunt driver lived a man constantly refining his craft through years of navigating the heights of fame. Fast forward to 2026, and at 66 years old, he remains a vital force in the world of independent storytelling. In the quiet corners of our nostalgia, that orange car is still soaring, and Bo is still grinning at the wide-open horizon. As the eve comes the thunder of the motor and the smell of burning rubber as they prepare for whatever trouble comes next. With the wheels spinning against the dirt, Luke's calm smile tells us that no obstacle is too big for them to overcome, even when trouble is tailing them. The Duke boys are always a mile ahead. Born back on September 9, 1951, Wopat was 27 years old when the world first saw him slide into the driver's seat in 1979. Having grown up in a house filled with music, he honed his skills in the theater department at the University of Wisconsin. His portrayal of the level-headed Luke turned him into a defining symbol of cool for the turn of the decade. But his journey didn't end at the county line. He sought out the bright lights of a much different kind of stage. Wopat carved out a masterful path on Broadway and across the television landscape, proving he was far more than just a driver. From his time on the sitcom Sybil to his sophisticated jazz and country records, his talent knew no real boundaries or limits. Behind that famous charm was a dedicated artist who moved seamlessly between the roar of engines and the silence of the stage. Now at the age of 74, he continues to share his gift with the world, reminding us that true heroes never really retire. Luke Duke didn't just drive fast. He possessed the rare wisdom to know exactly when to make his move and escape. Sorrell Booke takes his place at the desk, his legendary white suit stretched tight, embodying a man who loved power and luxury. With a thick cigar gripped in his hand, Boss Hogg lets out a belly laugh that echoed through every home in America. Shadows dance across his face through the office blinds, hinting at the many schemes currently swirling in his greedy mind. You could almost see the gears turning as another one of his famous crooked plans began to take its final shape. He leans in close with a twinkle in his eye, making us realize we were watching a performance that was truly special. In those moments, he wasn't just a simple antagonist. He was a colorful force of nature that we couldn't help but love. To this day, he remains the unforgettable, chaotic heartbeat that kept the spirit of Hazzard County alive and kicking for us all, long before he donned those iconic white suits. Sorrell Booke entered the world on January 4th, 1930, in the cold air of Buffalo, New York, eventually reaching the age of 49 when the cameras first rolled in 1979. He was far more than just a comedic force on screen. He was a brilliant and gifted scholar who honed his sharp mind at the prestigious halls of Yale University. His journey began with deep training in the world of theater, where he meticulously crafted his acting skills before spending decades navigating the diverse landscapes of both stage and early television. Throughout the vibrant 1960s and the gritty 1970s, he became a familiar face to audiences in countless dramatic roles that showed off his incredible range. However, it was the legendary figure of Boss Hogg that truly etched his name into history, creating a perfect storm of comedic timing and pure, unadulterated greed. He managed to infuse a strange, magnetic charm into that white-suited tycoon, building a figure that we simply could not help but watch with a smile. The final curtain fell on February 11, 1994, when he lost his brave battle with colorectal cancer at the age of 64. A wave of genuine sadness hit every living room in America as fans realized they would not see any more of his hilariously crooked business deals. Even so, if you listen closely to the wind in the Georgia pines, that distinctive, wheezing laughter still seems to echo across the county lines. It serves as proof that a truly great performance never really leaves the room. Much like Denver, Pyle standing quietly on a weathered porch as the sun dips below the horizon. We can almost see Uncle Jesse there right now, his calloused hands resting gently on the old, worn wooden railing of the Duke farmhouse. In the quiet distance, the familiar and aggressive roar of the General Lee slowly melts away into the long shadows of the rolling hills. He lets out a slow, heavy sigh, his weathered face showing a mix of deep-seated worry and immense pride for those boys of his. In those brief moments of quiet reflection, every viewer understood that this man was the true, beating heart of the entire Duke legacy. Born in the small town of Bethune, Colorado, on May 11th, 1920, Pyle had reached the wise age of 59 by the time the world first met the Dukes. After finding his way back home from the front lines of World War II, he dedicated his life to the art of performance, refining his natural talent. He spent many long years working the dusty trails of classic westerns and navigating the early days of the golden age of television. Most audiences first recognize that honest face from his time on The Andy Griffith Show, where he first began making his permanent mark on the industry. His work on the life and legend of Wyatt Earp solidified his reputation for having a grounded, soulful presence that became his absolute signature. Over many decades, he built a solid reputation based on a sense of quiet reliability and a strength that never needed to shout to be heard. Seeing him appear on our television screens always brought a warm sense of home and comfort to families sitting together in their living rooms. On Christmas Day, 1997, at the age of 77, he passed away from lung cancer, leaving a void that felt like losing a real family member. Yet, even now, the spirit of Uncle Jesse refuses to fade away into the mist of television history. Stands Christopher Mayer, leaning casually against the vibrant orange hood of the most famous car in the entire world. Red dust swirls around his boots as he steps into the character of Vance Duke, staring down the long, sun-drenched paths stretching across Hazzard County. The powerful engine thrums beside him, sunlight dancing off the chrome as he gives us that signature confident smirk before sliding behind the wheel. The true essence of what it meant to be a Duke was captured perfectly within that single cinematic frame of film. Coming out of New York City, Mayer was only 27 years old when he stepped onto the set during that famous cast transition in 19... and Sheriff Rosco P. Coltrane begins spinning in a frantic circle, letting out that high-pitched, iconic giggle we all love. We all remember the first time we saw that lawman on screen, the one who could never quite pin down his targets. Yet he effortlessly managed to capture the spotlight in every single scene he graced. Coming into the world on July 26th, 1926, in Powderly, Kentucky. James Bess had already lived a lifetime before he reached the age of 53 when the Dukes of Hazzard first hit the airwaves in 1979. Before he was a household name, He served as a dedicated World War II veteran and sharpened his craft at the University of Miami, slowly carving out a respectable path through gritty westerns and early television dramas. You might have spotted him in classics like Gunsmoke, but his true legacy wasn't built on being a tough guy. It was his brilliant comedic timing that turned Rosco into a beloved icon of American humor. There was a genuine kindness in his eyes that made every car chase feel like a game, which made it all the more painful when he left us on April 6th, 2015, at 88 years old due to pneumonia complications. When he passed, a quiet wave of sorrow moved through the hearts of every fan who spent their childhood evenings laughing along with his unforgettable and playful antics. Even now, if you catch a late-night rerun, you'll find Rosco still out there on those dirt roads, with his siren echoing through time, chasing down a sense of joy that never truly fades. Imagine Ben Jones standing there in the heat, wiping the dark engine oil onto a worn-out rag as he leans deep into the guts of a tired, old machine that's seen better days. The afternoon sun dances off the polished chrome in the rising dust as Cooter pulls himself up, narrows his eyes against the glare, and gives us that warm, familiar smile we all came to love. Earning his degree from the University of North Carolina, he spent years training in the theater, building a solid foundation long before he ever became a staple of our living room television sets. Though he had roles in big projects like Smokey and the Bandit, it was the soul of Cooter Davenport that transformed him into a permanent and cherished part of our cultural family. He gave us a character who wasn't defined by flashy heroics or grand gestures, but by a deep, unwavering loyalty and a heart as big as the southern sky itself. Once the cameras stopped rolling, Jones dedicated his life to serving the public as a United States congressman before eventually finding his way back to his roots through writing and preserving history in museums. Now, in the year 2026, at the age of 84, he remains a living bridge to the legendary stories of a show that defined an entire era of American television. As the sunlight glimmers off the denim, you can see that familiar, determined look in Daisy Duke's eyes as she steps out to face the world with her head held high. She stands there with her hands firmly on her hips, watching the chaos unfold, with a perfect blend of small-town courage and a calm that suggested she was always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. For just a fleeting second, the whole world seems to hold its breath as we see a woman who was never just a face on a poster, but a fearless leader who was always in total command. In that singular, powerful moment, it became clear that Daisy wasn't just a character in the background. She was the electric spark that kept the entire Duke family from falling apart. Entering the world on March 1st, 1954, in Warren, Ohio. Catherine Bach was only 25 years old when she helped launch the phenomenon of the Dukes of Hazzard back in 1979. With a background in serious drama from UCLA, she spent her early years proving her talent in films like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, long before she became the face of a generation, before she took on the role that would eventually define her entire career. She was just a working actress. But soon Daisy Duke evolved into a massive cultural force that changed everything. She completely reimagined what it meant to be a strong woman on television, blending a natural, effortless charm with a fierce independence that inspired millions of young viewers. Away from the blinding lights of Hollywood fame, Bach handled the ups and downs of life and the challenges of reinvention with a quiet, steady strength that few ever truly saw. Today, at the age of 72, she continues to be a figure of warmth and inspiration for the generations of fans who grew up wanting to be just as brave as she was. Many television characters eventually fade into the background of our memories, but Daisy Duke still walks that long, winding road, remaining as unforgettable and unshakable as the first day we met her. You can almost see Sonny Shroyer standing there on the edge of the county line, his hat looking just a bit too large for his head and a hopeful smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. as he watches the Duke boys vanish into a thick cloud of red clay dust. Enos Strate starts to lift his hand to call them back, caught between his duty and his heart, but then he just lets his hand fall back to his side, letting out a soft, knowing chuckle as he realizes some things in Hazzard are just meant to run free. She truly was the essential light that kept the story burning bright, having begun her own journey back on March 1st, 1954, in the town of Warren, Ohio. Catherine was only 25 when the world first got a glimpse of Hazzard County in 1979, forever changing the landscape of what we watched on Friday nights. Relying on the deep dramatic training she received at UCLA, she spent those early years building a resume in the film industry that many people might have forgotten today. She shared the screen in gritty movies like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, preparing herself for the one iconic role that would eventually write her name into the history books forever. Daisy Duke didn't just become a star. She became a global phenomenon that forced television to rethink its narrow ideas of what a strong Southern woman could really be. She moved through the world with a rare mix of independence and grace. Even as she navigated the heavy weight of fame behind the scenes of the hit show, through every personal hurdle and every moment of professional reinvention, she carried herself with a quiet resilience that mirrored the tough character she played on the screen. Time has a way of making us forget the things we once loved, but Daisy Duke remains a permanent fixture on that dusty road, forever walking toward a horizon that never ends. Looking back, we can still see Sonny Shroyer waiting patiently at the edge of the road, a picture of innocence in a world that was moving much faster than he ever cared to. There was something so endearing about the way his hat sat just a little too low and how his smile always seemed to hold more hope than the world would ever allow. We can still see the image of Enos Strate standing there, squinting as he watches the Duke boy's car disappear into a swirling mist of dust and memories. He begins to reach out as if he could somehow stop the passage of time itself, before simply laughing to himself and accepting the beautiful chaos of the life he chose. That silver badge on his chest caught the golden afternoon light, a quiet signal that every viewer understood perfectly. You see, Enos Strate was never really built for the high-speed grit of a dangerous highway chase. No. His heart was crafted from something much softer, a soul built entirely just to care for others. His story started in Valdosta, Georgia. Born on the 28th of August in 1935, Sonny Shroyer was already 43 years old when the show first hit the airwaves in 1979. After his years at Florida State University, he began finding his voice on the regional theater stage. He eventually transitioned to television, where his natural, approachable warmth made him a face. Popularity was so strong it even led to his very own moment in the spotlight. Enos, even far beyond Hazzard County. Shroyer kept acting while always staying close to the character we loved. Today, at 90 years old, he remains a deeply cherished icon for those who remember those dusty roads. While some lawmen only cared about the rules, Enos reminded us why kindness was what truly mattered. We appreciate you taking this nostalgic trip back to visit the legendary cast of Hazzard County with us. If you truly enjoyed this journey, we look forward to reading your stories in the space right down below.